I will try to piece these together. All right. Early in the 7th century, there's a document that gives us the 3 names of these wise men. That's the first time we hear about it, about the year 612 or so. And we have Gasper, he brought the gold. We have Melchior, he brought frankincense. And we have Balthasar, he brought myrrh. That's just traditions. We don't have any real facts on it. All right. The Revelation of the Magi, this book I show up here, is a 3rd century, so it's older. So the 3rd century is about 200 or so. Okay, so it's closer to when it happened. It says there were 12 of them. But it also tells you a lot more. It says they came in a caravan, and there was a lot of soldiers with them. Why?
To protect all their valuables.
All that valuables they're bringing to the king. Let's see what happens here. All right. Let's see here. So, I'll just go a little bit quicker here. If you had been waiting over 600 years to fill the prophecy, and that God would come in the flesh to save all mankind, and you were extremely wealthy, they are, and you were known as the kingmakers, they are, would you have brought just 3 little tiny little boxes of gifts? Little ones, like I always see. All right. So they brought a caravan. This is the Magi caravan based off of an illustrator who is a historian. He did research on this and said it would have been at least 10 miles worth traveling through the desert. There was a big caravan. That's why all of Jerusalem was uproar. They were all like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? This was a massive event. Where is the king that we come to worship? Herod was like, oh gosh. And Herod had heard about this all the way until he got there, because he had towers all the way along the route that they were traveling on. So we get a little bit further here, and it says, where is he who has been born king of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose and come to worship. There we go. It means continuous ongoing activity. These guys were saying it over and over and over. They were asking everybody. And then the king, the word here for king, Basileus, means the most powerful king. Not King Herod. The king. And it's got a definitive article in front of it. It's not a king. The king. So he's the king. And we saw his star and we came to worship him. So the worship here is interesting because it means to kiss the ground by prostrating yourself before a superior. These guys came with all this caravan, all of this wealth, and they're telling Herod that they want to fall on their faces, kiss the ground, and worship this newborn king that was born. This must have been frightening to Herod. He's already been killing his own family members who he was afraid they're going to become the rulers. Okay? And we go a little bit further. When Herod, okay, we saw his star. I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll slow down, though, because this is too much fun. All right? I feel rushed because we got drums bump, but I'm going to force myself to slow a little bit. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled. And all of Jerusalem also, by the way, it's not just Herod. All those other people in Jerusalem, who are they? Sadducees and Pharisees. They're all troubled also. How come they didn't know what was going on? All right. So the star, we could spend a lot more time on that. There's lots of different theories about the star. I'll give you my theory. And Jupiter is known as the king planet in the star gospel. It has a highly unusual 3 conjunctions that take place during this period of time. Regulus is known as the king star, and that's in the constellation Leo, the king, the lion, the tribe of Judah. And from 3 to 2 BC, during that one period, and it happened September 14th, February 17th, and May 8th. And then on June 17th, in 2 BC, Jupiter again came forward and was in conjunction now with Venus. This is important because if you're looking at stars, if you've never done any star gazing, when you have a conjunction, it looks like one star, okay? And it's brighter. And Jupiter's already bright, and Venus is already bright. So when they come together as one, it's even much more bright. And so the star here of Bethlehem could be this astrological conjunction taking place. Some people say no, it was a miracle. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I can't argue that. But I can, as a scientist, that's what I am. I'm going to go look for some science stuff first before I start jumping to miracle. Because I think God uses a lot of natural things to do things that are supernatural. All right, so we have the star, but the star appeared, it disappeared, it moved, and it stopped over the house. That doesn't sound like a star to most people. It does sound like a star to me. What? Not a comet. Let's see how that could be. So, behold the star, it came to the house, and they worship him. Just tie this back in. Behold the star. So, the star part here, I have a diagram to show you how this would work. There's a thing called regression that takes place with stars. If you get out every night and watch a particular planet, not all stars do this, but only the wandering stars. You know what they are? We call them planets. The word planet means a wandering star. Okay? The wandering stars are the only ones that do this. And what happens here is showing you this picture here of Earth. There's the sun. Here's Earth traveling around on the inner circle, T1 all the way to T5. So you know that's us, that's Earth. And then P is a planet. And it does something special that really a lot of people don't realize this. But if you watch it for a while, if I'm at T1 and I'm watching planet 1, it appears to be called A1. Does that make sense so far? You're looking at it, that's where it looks, okay? Now, if I'm at this place in time as the planet's moving, and on Earth T2, and I see planet 2, oh, look, it moved all the way over to A2. So it went from A1 up to A2. So that thing has moved all the way across the sky. Have you ever seen that happen? The planets, like you watch Jupiter or one of the bright ones, you can see it moving, right? Okay, look at this one. T3, I'm directly in line with planet 3. Let's say it's Jupiter. And when I look straight at it, it looks like it went from here and went backwards. It came back. That's called retrogression. Doesn't look like it, it came backwards. Even though it didn't go backwards, it's still moving, just like the Earth is. But when you look at it from our angle, it looks like, oh, it went backwards in the sky. Then at T4, I see the planet with P4, and now it looks like it went all the way back, almost near where it started at. Okay? And then finally, at T5, planet 5, and all of a sudden it moves farther up and away, and it keeps this orbit going. So we call it retrogression. It looks like it goes forward, it backs up, and then it goes forward. When it backs up at one point, it looks like it stops. It stops there for a little while. So the theory here is that during the Bethlehem star, it came up 2 years earlier. They saw those constellations. I showed you 3 times that it happened. And they saw that. They prepared themselves for the trip. They got all their gifts together, and they went on their trip. They're traveling from Persia up and around the desert and come all the way back around and coming down through Syria down to Jerusalem. When they get to Jerusalem, the star's not there where it had been. So they ask, where is the child? Where is? And they don't know. Then they say, Bethlehem. Great. So they leave. They go looking for Bethlehem, but they got sidetracked. The baby's not in Bethlehem anymore. The baby is now 2 years old, and it's in a house. It's in his own house. Where was that at? In Nazareth. They actually deviated. The Magi deviated and went a different direction. That's the reason why Herod couldn't find them. Okay? And then Herod says, go kill everybody, every baby that's in Bethlehem. That's the last place I heard of. All right, so let's go a little bit further here. So they got to the house, and they said they came there to worship him. God redirected them to where the house was. Jesus is 2 years old by this time, because it's been 2 years since it happened, since the star rose, the constellation. The house is Joseph's house now, his dad's house, right? Dad built it, and then Joseph builds a part onto that, which our pastor talked about this morning. I was hoping he was going to get to the rest of the story, but it's going to come later. All right. So he's back at his dad's house, which is his house now, and now they're back in their home. And that's where the Magi show up. Now, this picture here demonstrates 3 showing up, but it would have been the huge caravan. And the treasures are amazing. So let's look at those treasures for a moment. Opening their treasures, they presented him gifts, gold, and frankincense, and myrrh. So opening their treasures, we have, opening is a Greek word that means it was a grand, magnificent opening. It wasn't a, here's a little box and open it up. Have you ever been to a pageant where all the people come down the aisles with their animals and stuff? And so it's a big group coming in. That's what it was like. It's a big deal. It's like a grand finale. They all came to the house and they presented a magnificent presentation. And a storehouse of treasure is a size that is used to describe the word treasure. This Greek word means a storehouse of treasures, not a little tiny handful. It was massive. So when we say they were lowly and they were poor, how did they spend all that fast? They didn't. Our traditions are wrong. Okay? So it's a storehouse of treasure, a cargo field, and it's plural. More than one treasure. It was an abundance of treasures for the king. And then the word for gold is a plural word for there are lots of different gold gifts being given. If you come to give a present to somebody and you're really wealthy and you bring one trinket of gold and you've been waiting 600 years for this, you don't have much value for that gold. But if you brought treasures and just heaping gold, which is what this word is talking about, our traditions have got to be updated. This is, an amazing story. Everybody would have saw this. This would have been huge. All right.
I'm just wondering why Herod could follow them out.
We have stories of him following them as they were leaving through the desert, but that's not in the Bible. All right. So, what became of the Magi then? What do you think? What happened to them? They went home. Tradition has it that when the Apostle Thomas, you know the Apostle Thomas, right? The Apostle Thomas was on his way to India, because that's where he went to go minister. If you don't know that, he went to India. And from India, he went up into China. So when he went to do that, he stopped and presented the full gospel to the Magi. So they would know the full story of the death and resurrection. And so that became an emphasis throughout India. And I talked to Indian friends. They said, yeah, we have old traditions about that, but I don't know if it's true or not. See, to them, it's legends, right? But
When they came, they were expecting them to be the king. They had no idea what was going to happen.
that's right. They only knew him as the king, but they knew him as the eternal king. They knew him as God in flesh. But they didn't know the part about the sacrifice, and that came later. So they were ready, though, because it says as soon as that Thomas gave them the gospel, they immediately believed, and they were baptized. So, all right. And my last saying is this. Wise men still seek him. So, that's the end of the story. These are my references if you're interested in reading these books. We have Christmas, the rest of the story by one of my favorite writers and teachers of the Bible, Rick Renner. And then the Tower of the Flock, the Christian story, or the Christmas story, by Dr. Van Horn. And then last, you want a picture of that? How's that? And then the last thing is we don't meet next week. This is like Christmas Eve day, and they're having all kinds of other stuff going on. We will meet the following Sunday, which is odd because it will be December 31, and I'm going to start the new year of teaching. We're going to start with the unseen realm. Okay? All right. Father, thank you for this. Blessed in Jesus' name. Amen.